Welcome to the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe and support me. The hum of the spaceport's terminals faded as Dr. Nathan Corvin moved through the crowded atrium, his senses finally attuned to the flow of energy around him. Though the bustling movement of people, traders, and ships was deafening to most, Nathan had learned to tune it out. He could see more than others to feel more. And today, the weight of another mission pressed heavily on his mind. Nathan wasn't a typical doctor. His skill set went beyond medical knowledge or surgical precision. He was a healer of souls, able to traverse the barriers between parallel universes, using his rare gift to repair the deepest wounds, those that existed on a spiritual level. It was a solitary life, but one he'd chosen long ago when he realized that his unique abilities could save those whose pain went beyond the physical. He approached his ship, the Nebula's Grace, a sleek, silver craft designed for interdimensional travel. The technology inside was beyond what most civilizations could even fathom, allowing Nathan to slip between universes as easily as crossing a street. But this journey would be different. The distress signal he'd received earlier was unlike anything he'd encountered before, coming from a parallel universe that should have been sealed off, its access restricted by the unstable nature of its fabric. Still, the message was clear. Jenna Cyril, a renowned interdimensional explorer, was in trouble. The data he had on Jenna was sparse, but her reputation was enough to intrigue him. She'd made a name for herself mapping the most dangerous and uncharted realities, pushing the limits of human exploration. But now, it seemed, she'd gone too far. The signal spoke of a spiritual injury, something more profound than any physical wound, and Nathan knew that only he had the skills to help her. As he entered his ship, the familiar scent of sterilized metal greeted him. He glanced at the control panel, his fingers hovering above the navigation systems. The coordinates Jenna had sent were erratic, but he trusted his instincts. He always had. With a smooth glide, the Nebula's Grace lifted off, piercing the fabric of space and time with ease. Nathan settled into the captain's chair, feeling the subtle vibration of the ship as it transitioned between dimensions. The journey was disorienting for most, but for Nathan, it was second nature. He closed his eyes, letting the familiar pull of the universe guide him. Soon, he would be in a place where few dared to tread, a fractured universe where the rules of reality were twisted beyond recognition. When the ship emerged from the rift, the sight before him was both breathtaking and unsettling. The universe Jenna had stumbled into was a desolate, fragmented place, where shards of reality floated aimlessly, untethered to any sense of order. Colors bled into one another, skies flickered between day and night, and time itself seemed to pulse erratically. It was a universe on the brink of collapse. Nathan steeled himself and landed the ship on a floating platform that appeared stable enough to hold it. He disembarked, feeling the pull of the universe's broken energy tugging at him. Jenna's presence was faint, but unmistakably she was nearby, though her spirit was fractured, scattered across this chaotic realm. He found her in the shadow of a towering structure that defied all logic, its edges bending inwards as if it couldn't decide what shape to take. Jenna was sitting against its base, her body still and intact, but Nathan could feel the damage within her soul. She was lost, disconnected from herself. "Jenna," Nathan called softly, approaching her with caution. Her eyes flickered open, dull and vacant, barely registering his presence. He knelt beside her, placing a hand on her shoulder, and in that moment, he felt the depth of her pain. It wasn't a physical injury, but something far worse, a deep spiritual wound that had splintered her sense of self. "You came," she whispered, her voice thin and fragile, as if it might break at any moment. "I'm here to help," Nathan said, his voice steady. "But I need you to trust me." Jenna's gaze shifted to the shifting horizon, where reality itself seemed to fracture and mend in an endless cycle. "I don't know if I can be fixed. I've lost pieces of myself, a broken bar, pieces I can't find anymore." Nathan exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of her words. This wasn't just a simple case of spiritual exhaustion. Jenna's soul had been shattered, scattered across the fabric of this broken universe. To heal her, Nathan would have to guide her through a journey within herself, a one that would force them both to confront their own inner darkness. "We'll start small," he said gently, kneeling beside her. "Close your eyes. Focus on the sound of my voice." Jenna hesitated but did as he asked, her body relaxing slightly under his guidance. Nathan closed his own eyes, reaching out with his mind to connect with hers. The moment their consciousnesses touched, he felt the full extent of her fractured state. Her soul was scattered, existing in fragments across multiple layers of reality. They were no longer standing in the ruined universe. Instead, they found themselves in a vast, tranquil meadow, the grass swaying gently in the breeze. It was a mental construct, a safe space Nathan had created within Jenna's mind, designed to help her focus and begin the healing process. But he knew it wouldn't last. The deeper they went, the more unstable things would become. "This place a broken bar," Jenna began, her voice stronger now. "It feels familiar." Nathan nodded. "It's a part of you, one of the few pieces that's still whole. But we need to find the others." As they walked through the meadow, Nathan could feel the fractures in Jenna's psyche, like invisible wounds etched into the landscape. He guided her carefully, using his own energy to stabilize the fragile construct as they ventured deeper into her subconscious. They came to a cliff's edge, where the ground gave way to a chasm of swirling chaos. Beyond it lay the fragmented pieces of Jenna's soul, floating like islands in the void. Each fragment held a part of her memories, emotions, pieces of her identity that had been lost in the collapse of this universe. "We have to cross," Nathan said, his voice steady. "But you have to be willing to face what's on the other side." Jenna stared at the chasm, her expression conflicted. "What if I don't want to? What if the pieces of me that are lost a broken bar are better off that way?" Nathan felt a pang of recognition. He had asked himself the same question many times over the years. As a healer, he had seen the darkest parts of people's souls, and there had been moments when he wondered if some wounds were better left untouched. But he knew that healing required confronting the pain, not avoiding it. "You're not broken beyond repair," Nathan said, his voice gentle but firm. "We'll find the pieces, and we'll make you whole again. But you have to trust me." Jenna hesitated, then nodded. "All right, let's do this." Together, they stepped into the chasm, the world around them distorting as they descended into the heart of Jenna's fractured soul. The chaos enveloped them, pulling at their minds, threatening to tear them apart. But Nathan held on, using his abilities to stabilize their connection as they passed through the storm of her emotions. When they emerged on the other side, they found themselves in a new landscape, one that was dark and desolate, filled with crumbling ruins and jagged cliffs. This was a place of fear and doubt, a manifestation of the negative emotions Jenna had suppressed over the years. Nathan felt the weight of the place pressing down on them, but he pushed forward, guiding Jenna through the ruins. "This is where we'll find the first piece," he said, scanning the area with his mind. Jenna followed silently, her expression grim. As they moved through the crumbling landscape, they came to a towering monolith, its surface cracked and weathered. Nathan could feel the energy radiating from it. This was one of the lost pieces of Jenna's soul. But as they approached the monolith, a shadowy figure emerged from the darkness. It was a manifestation of Jenna's fierce yet twisted, distorted version of herself, filled with anger and resentment. The shadow stepped forward, its voice a low growl. "You can't heal what's already dead." Nathan Corvin stood in the shadow of the portal, the faint hum of the machinery buzzing in his ears as he keyed in the final coordinates. His fingertips hovered over the screen for a moment before he let out a slow breath, watching the numbers solidify into a pattern of lines that made up the gateway between universes. The flickering blue light from the control panel washed over his face, highlighting the deep-set tension in his brow. He could feel the strain from his last mission still lurking beneath the surface, like a bruise that hadn't quite healed. Each jump between realities left its mark on him, subtle but cumulative, pulling him farther from any sense of grounded reality. But this new signal, This strange call for help from Jenna was too urgent to ignore. The portal opened with a flash of light, and Nathan stepped forward, feeling the familiar rush of displacement as he crossed into the new universe. It hit him all at once, the warped physics of this place, the way the air seemed to ripple with tension, like a guitar string stretched to its limit. Time and space folded in on themselves here, and even standing still, he felt like he was drifting, caught in the tide of some unseen force. He was in a barren wasteland, the ground beneath him cracked and dry, stretching out into a jagged horizon. The sky was a swirling mass of dark clouds, illuminated by flashes of lightning that seemed to tear through the fabric of the atmosphere itself. In the distance, he could see what looked like fragments of buildings as skyscrapers, or what was left of them, jutting out from the ground at impossible angles, as if they had been dropped from a great height and frozen in place. Nathan adjusted the strap of his medical kit on his shoulder and scanned the desolate landscape for any sign of Jenna. Her signal had been strong, urgent, desperate, but now there was nothing. Just the distant rumble of thunder and the eerie, static-filled silence that came with being in a universe that was breaking down. He walked forward, each step crunching against the brittle ground, and soon found himself standing before one of the tilted skyscrapers. The base of the building was shattered, its glass exterior cracked and crumbling, but it provided some semblance of shelter from the storm that was brewing overhead. As Nathan ducked inside, he caught a glimpse of movement out of the corner of his eye. A figure, crouched in the shadows. "Jenna?" he called out, his voice echoing against the hollow walls. The figure stirred, slowly standing up. Nathan took a cautious step forward, his hand instinctively moving toward the small device strapped to his wrist, the one that allowed him to manipulate the energy fields of the soul. He wasn't here to fight, but in a place like this, anything could happen. The figure stepped into the faint light filtering through the cracked windows, and Nathan saw her fascia. Jenna. Her skin was pale, almost translucent, and her eyes had a haunted look to them, like someone who had been trapped in her own mind for far too long. "You came," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "I wasn't sure if anyone would." Nathan nodded, taking a step closer. "I got your signal. You're lucky it came through. This universe is collapsing in on itself. We need to get you out of here." Jenna shook her head. "It's not that simple." Nathan frowned. "What do you mean?" She gestured to the space around them, to the fractured skyline and the roiling sky above. "I've been here for so long, a broken bar. I'm part of this place now. My soul is tied to it, fractured just like everything else. If I leave a broken bar, I don't think I'll be whole again." Nathan took a deep breath. He had seen cases like this before, real souls that had been damaged beyond repair by the places they would travel to. Healing them was never easy, and it always came at a cost. But this felt different. Jenna's energy wasn't just fractured, it was being drained, siphoned off by something larger, something more dangerous. "We'll figure it out," he said, stepping closer. "But first, I need to understand what happened to you. How did you get here?" Jenna's eyes flickered with a mix of fear and sadness as she sat down on the cracked floor, her back resting against the crumbling wall. "I was exploring. I always thought the more I saw, the more I'd understand about life, about the universe. But this place, a broken bar, it's different. It's like it's alive, feeding off of the people who come here. I couldn't leave once I realized it. Every time I tried, something pulled me back. And now, I'm barely hanging on." Nathan knelt beside her, gently placing his hand on her arm. "You're not alone anymore. We're going to get you through this." For a moment, Jenna's eyes softened, but then a shadow passed over her face, and she tensed. "It's not just me," she whispered. "There's something here, a broken bar, something dark. It's been following me, waiting for the right moment." Nathan felt a chill run down his spine. He had encountered dark entities before, shadows that clung to fractured souls like parasites, but this felt different, more powerful, more dangerous. He activated the device on his wrist, and a faint glow surrounded Jenna, illuminating the cracks in her soul, the places where her energy was leaking into the universe around them. It was worse than he had imagined. She wasn't just fractured, she was tethered to the universe itself, her soul slowly being consumed by whatever darkness lurked here. Nathan closed his eyes, focusing on the energy fields around them. He could feel the pull of the universe, the way it was trying to draw him in, too. But he wasn't going to let that happen. Not to him, and not to Jenna. "We're going to need to face it," he said quietly, his voice steady despite the fear gnawing at the edges of his mind. "Whatever this thing is, it's not going to stop until it has you. We need to confront it." Jenna looked up at him, her eyes filled with uncertainty. "And if we can't stop it?" Nathan met her gaze, his expression resolute. "Then we fight together." The ground beneath them rumbled, and the air around them grew thick with tension. Nathan could feel the darkness closing in, circling them like a predator stalking its prey. He stood up, pulling Jenna to her feet as the shadows around them began to writhe and twist, forming into a tangible shapey creature made of pure darkness, its eyes glowing with malevolent intent. Nathan's heart raced, but he didn't let the fear take over. He focused on the energy fields, manipulating them to create a barrier between them and the creature. The light from his device flared brightly, pushing the darkness back for a moment, but it wasn't enough. The creature was too strong, too powerful. "We need to break your connection to this universe," Nathan said, his voice strained as he struggled to hold the barrier in place. "It's the only way." Jenna nodded, her face pale but determined. "How?" Nathan gritted his teeth, his mind racing. "We need to go deeper into your soul, find the root of the connection and sever it." "But it's risky. If we're not careful, a broken bar." Jenna's eyes met his, and she gave a small nod. "I trust you." Nathan swallowed hard, feeling the weight of her trust settle on his shoulders. He didn't have time to second guess himself. The darkness was closing in, and if they didn't act fast, it would consume them both. He reached out, taking Jenna's hand, and together they plunged into the depths of her soul.